Look, man, this Lamar slander is getting ridiculous.
I don't know what we're supposed to do.
I mean, I've shown Nick the graphics.
True.
He's watched the games. The dude's got 2 MVPs, might have 3.
We've tried all year. We tried almost a full year since last playoffs. Nothing's worked. We're out of ideas. It just is what it is at this point.
I got one thing left up my sleeve.
Who talking about my quarterback, Lamar Jackson? Who wants some problems? He the best. Who got a problem with that?
What up?
Live from New York, it's a show that has grown tired of the Lamar Jackson slander. It's the first hour of First Things First. We're starting with the Ravens. The rare favorites over the Bills on Sunday night. The Bills have not been home playoff underdogs since 1967. They've got the longest active streak of being a home favorite. If this line holds, the streak will be snapped at 42 games. The Chiefs there at 25. They will be the home favorite champions. So, do you think Josh is being disrespected as a home underdog?
Yeah, a lot of people are being disrespected by this line. You mentioned one of them, the Chiefs. Chiefs played a playoff game in Buffalo during this streak. They did it last year. Who was the favorite? Buffalo.
Sure.
The Chiefs played a regular season game this year in Buffalo. Who was the favorite? Buffalo. But listen, not everybody can be as good as the 5-loss, 0-time defending champion Baltimore Ravens. I don't get it. I don't understand. I totally understand why someone would say Baltimore's going to win. I totally get that. These two teams are as dead even as two teams can be. We can show you the regular season, just the most basic stats imaginable. How much do they score? Both a shade over 30, shade under 31. How much do they allow? Both a shade over 21, both a shade under 22. What's their point differential total?
Love it.
The exact same to the number. Now, some would argue, well, the fact that the Bills all year long, if we throw out Week 18 for the teams who didn't play their quarterbacks, all year long lost 3 times while Baltimore won 5. It's a big check mark in the Bills' favor. When they played head-to-head, Baltimore won. That's a big check mark in Baltimore's favor. So those, to me, you can call a wash unless it's just flatly they played in September, one team won, that team's clearly better. But that's usually not how we do the math on these games going into the postseason. I don't see what the Ravens have proven to where they deserve to be a road favorite against a great team. And now if the argument is the Bills aren't a great team. They lost 3 times all year with their starting quarterback playing, but they're actually fraudulent, then so be it. I don't think anyone thinks that. And we have seen it can't just be Lamar's awesome, because Mahomes went in this building last year and was a 2.5-point dog. Mahomes went in this building this year and was a 2.5-point dog. So yeah, if I were a Bills fan, I would feel, if I were a Bill, disrespected that we're home underdogs with and the big injury in the game is on Baltimore's side. The Bills don't have a key player out, and Zay's not out, to be fair, but he again didn't practice. He might be out. So I don't get it, bro.
I get it. He's not being disrespected at all. And last year, the Chiefs, remember, they were at that time a 1-time defending champion, and they had a bad regular season. Remember, they were 500 over the second half of that season, so nobody knew that they were going to have this explosion in the playoffs.
What about
like they
this
did.
year then?
Well, this year, I'll give you that. Yeah. But the playoffs last year, I mean, the Chiefs, the way they had played in the regular season, I get that. This is not disrespectful. This is evidence-based. All the evidence. You showed some basic numbers. Here's some more numbers. Not even numbers, who's got the better run game? Baltimore. Who's got the more productive pass game? Well, productive. First of all, the Ravens threw for more yards per game and threw for 11 more touchdowns than the Bills did in the season.
Then why did they score, Brew?
So they got the more productive.
If they have the better run game and better pass game, why did they score the exact same
you only go 30 points is 30 points. That's a lot.
No, but
I'm saying they scored.
Then how did Buffalo score as many?
I'm just breaking it down. Better run game, more productive pass game. Who's got the better defense? Over the last 8 weeks, the Ravens, who've had a great defensive culture for decades, have allowed 14 points a game, best in the NFL. Over that same period, Buffalo's allowed 23 points a game. And a lot of those games were against playoff teams for Baltimore. Who's got the Super Bowl winning coach? Baltimore. All right, who had the more impressive victories? Baltimore beats 8 playoff teams or won 8 games against playoff teams. The Bills have won 3
The Bills
against
beat
playoff.
both 1 seeds.
Yeah, and head-to-head matchups too. I wasn't even going to go there, but they did play, and you glossed over like, oh, yeah, the Ravens beat them. No, they didn't beat them.
Well,
they pounded them. And Derrick Henry ran like he was playing with boys. All right, they beat him by 25 points. So I think all of the evidence, Nick, is that the Ravens should be favored.
So here's where I think you were using your English degree to play some verbal tricks there. Because you smartly didn't say who has the better pass game after saying who has the better run game. You said who has the better run game? We said Baltimore. You then switched it to productive pass game, but we can.
Because I think both. Okay. I think it's arguable.
Who has the?
But
more,
I'm talking.
So,
but
so
what's been more productive?
Who has the more productive run game? I guess by your metric, it's Buffalo because they have so many more rushing touchdowns.
They don't have more rushing yards. Baltimore have more passing yards and passing touchdowns by 11.
So they have way more passing touchdowns, agreed. Buffalo has more rushing touchdowns. They scored the same amount of points this year. So I don't think one team clearly had the better run attack and pass attack. Buffalo.
You're not going to sit here and argue that Buffalo has the better run game or even an equal run game.
No, I think they have the better passing game. I do. Well, here's.
Well, it didn't produce more in any category. What category did the pass game produce more?
Here's my question. This is why I said, and then I'll get to the thing about the defense. Then how did they score the same amount of points this year?
Sometimes defenses score. It depends on the competition you're playing. Sometimes points are scored when the game is kind of over. I mean, it could be any number of things.
Okay, so I think that when these two teams were within, one team scored over the entire season 7 more points than the other, and the other team allowed over the entire season 7 more points than the other, which is why they have the exact same point differential. That those are their offenses and defenses are pretty even.
Is important.
Right, so that's the other thing I was going to say.
Who had the toughest schedule?
Well, I think Baltimore played more quality opponents.
Okay.
I think Buffalo played the hardest schedule as far as the top of the opponents and did well.
They were 2-3 against playoff teams.
They played, I think, the teams that you believe, Brew, are the 3 best teams in the NFL. Baltimore, the Bills played Baltimore, Kansas City, and Detroit. Mm-hmm. Kansas City and Detroit, when their starters played this year, were 30-1 or 29-1 against everyone but Buffalo, including beating Baltimore. But the other thing you did that I think is, again, slippery is that, well,
how about
you
clever?
You have,
because here,
no, hold on, let me say what it was, and then you tell me. Your argument for Baltimore has a great defense is look at the last 8 weeks. And your argument for Baltimore clearly being better than Buffalo is look at what happened 15 weeks ago. Those, to me, if you care that much about a week 4 result, then you care that much about Baltimore's defense back then as well.
Yeah, I do. And their defense was terrible back then, and they held Buffalo to 10 points.
Right, but so then what's the argument for that Baltimore has a better defense than Buffalo?
The last 8 weeks. Okay. And that game. Because when their defense wasn't even any good, they beat them 35 to 10.
There's no doubt they played better then. So, like, do you think?
There certainly is. Here's this. Yeah. To me, this settles it as far as the disrespect card. If Josh Allen, because it was about, is it disrespectful to Josh? Switch Josh and Lamar.
Yep.
Lamar's on the Bills. Josh is on the Ravens. Yeah. Who's favorite? The Ravens. So that proves it ain't about Josh. What? I'm saying if you switch the quarterbacks, the Ravens would still be favored because overall they're the better team.
Well,
that's why it's not disrespectful to Josh.
So
you get what I'm saying?
I didn't understand what you were saying at first, but now I do get it. Can I just ask then a general question?
I don't.
If you switch Derrick Henry,
I get it. I understand what you're saying. You see? So can I ask you a question then, Wilds?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we are the best teams in football, I think we agree. They're all still playing. We can argue about the order, but tell me if you think I'm leaving anybody out. Kansas City, Buffalo, Detroit, Philly, and Baltimore. Yeah. They have the 5 best Super Bowl odds. Sure. They have all of it. So in games where we take out the teams who rested guys in Week 18, Kansas City all year lost once. Detroit all year lost twice. Philly all year lost 3 times, and one of those games their quarterback got knocked out of very early, lost 3 times. Buffalo all year lost 3 times. Baltimore all year lost 5 times. This is where the Ravens discussion loses me. They have, evidently, a great defense. A great running game, we all know. The MVP at the quarterback.
Better.
But the last time they played a really good team, they got whacked too against Philadelphia.
Or beaten?
They got beaten. So okay, I mean were they down 24-12 in that game? I might have that wrong. I know they lost 24-19. 6, I think. Yeah, but I mean, so then with the question I have about,
you can't just go on records. Because last year the Chiefs were 11-6 and they were the best team.
I think the Chiefs are in a separate discussion from every other team.
Now
in the NFL.
they are, because now that they've proven that didn't mean anything.
Right,
we've seen plenty of 5, 6, 7 lost teams win the Super Bowl.
We have not seen plenty. No,
we've seen enough. We've seen some.
Okay. Can I show you a stat on
Greg
why
Jennings
Josh
won it
Allen's
with 10 wins at regular
disrespected?
season.
Home teams in divisional rounds in the last 2 years. Everybody's won except Josh Allen.
Well, that's the thing.
So I'm like, well, why does Josh Allen deserve an amount of respect if he's 0-2 and everybody else is winning?
That's the other thing. They've lost their last 2 home divisional playoff games.
Okay, I mean there's a first cousin of that graphic, which is quarterbacks as favorites the last few years in the playoffs, and it's Lamar's record versus everyone else. So like that to me is
No, I'm saying just Josh Allen, has not earned the respect. If it was the opposite, if it was Mahomesian, you'd be like, oh my gosh,
So you think
what's
it's
going
disrespectful too?
No, I don't think it's disrespectful to him. He hasn't earned it.
It's factual.
I'm at home in the divisional round. Here comes Mahomes. I lose. Okay, I'm at home in the divisional round. Here comes Joe Burrow. I lost.
So, but
okay.
So the divisional round is the differentiating factor there, because the guy he's
that's
playing,
what we're in.
The guy he's playing was at home in the conference championship game as a favorite.
We'll talk about that next week. When Lamar's in the conference championship. Ravens are a hot team, but it's getting cold in Buffalo. Oh, you get that lake effect. 8 degrees will be the chilliest game of Lamar's career. The real feel? I'm a huge fan of the real feel. Just throw out the thermostat said. Give me the real feel. -3. Ooh, oh my goodness, the real feel. Here's Jim Harbaugh with the most confusing quote you've ever heard.
Probably John Harbaugh.
It's actually John. I thought he was so busy practicing. He said, I got to call my brother. I might be an absolute idiot. Okay? And I've never played football, NFL football, in the freezing cold. What John Harbaugh just said was they are indoors practicing for Buffalo, where the real feel will be -3. He's turning off the water, okay? So he can make it even colder. And some brave, intrepid reporter said, excuse me, Jim, he said, it's John. He's, I always get that screwed up. Excuse me, John, why don't you play outside? And he said, it's too cold. The ground is too frozen.
The ground. He didn't say it's too cold.
Okay, yeah, the ground is too frozen. So then I was like, certainly I have this wrong. I get plenty of things wrong. So I'm talking to Danny Parkins. He knows everything. He's the #1 picker of
well, he knows how to pick games.
Yeah. So Nick's like, no. Buffalo it's heated.
I did not say
that.
that.
No, you just assumed it was. I'm like, oh, that does make sense. Lambeau is heated. Kansas City is heated. They got pipes under there, like
grass,
like an ice rink, but it's going to heat. The opposite. I Google it. Highmark's not heated.
It's why they need a new stadium.
Okay, so John Harbaugh's acting like he's Mike McDaniel in Miami. Like we're gonna turn up the AC. Bro, I'm a Ravens guy, especially today. But this seems nuts.
This seems perfectly fine.
Okay.
Do not, and you mentioned them, do not treat the Ravens like they are the Dolphins. There is not a break dancer in that locker room.
Bro,
Jim.
He's inside.
John Harbaugh, you got me mixed up now. John Harbaugh has been coaching in the NFL for nearly 30 years. He's been a head coach for 17 years. He's been wildly successful.
Yes.
I think he's played in the cold before. He knows how to get his team ready for the cold. So this is much ado about nothing. If the Ravens lose, I don't want to hear a peep about it being cold. This is the NFL. Every one of those NFL players that, except maybe Tua, that grew up dreaming about playing in the NFL, guess what some of their dreams were? Playing in the snow, playing in the rain, playing in the cold. Not practicing in the cold, playing the game in the cold.
If it was Tampa Bay, Miami, ooh, wow, Super Bowl. And Tampa Bay is inside, and they got the heat turned up. We're trying to, why don't you go outside? We don't want to go outside, too hot.
Bro.
We're not ready for it. This is nuts.
Let me show something real quick.
Sure, yeah. Lamar's good in the cold.
Yeah, this is Lamar Jackson. This is why I say don't treat him like Tua. My man is 9-1. 36 or below.
36 is not real field. No.
The real field for some of those games, I'm sure, was near 0. All right,
I don't know.
29 points a game.
Of his career.
27 degrees is the coldest.
But that doesn't mean he hasn't been. What's the coldest?
27.
What about real field?
I don't have the real field numbers.
You just said
Josh, you have the real field.
The real field rarely drops more than 20 degrees.
Okay, so say it was 10 degrees. Say the real field was 10 degrees.
And so
I mean, come on, my man is producing. We good. We good.
Bro.
If they lose, I don't want to hear about the
go
cold.
outside half the time?
I don't want to hear about the cold.
Matt Collins running around with no shoes on, no shirt.
Yeah, all right. We'll see how that works.
So here's where, and this is really an unfair advantage that I have in sports debate with Brew.
What?
He's so much more honest than me. And will not look me in the eye and lie. And while I try not to, I occasionally will. Brew, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If this were a team that you did not love the way you do the Ravens, if it were honestly almost any other team in football, except for maybe Kansas City or Baltimore, and their coach was like, it's going to be -5 in this playoff game, but we can't practice outside because the field is too frozen. Would you or would you not rip them? Because I know you would rip them. You would talk about when men were men and about how you played and all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I played on some hard grounds in high school. But my point, no. Here's why I'm not. If it were Nick Sirianni, he's had success, or a first-year coach or something, maybe. Like I said, John Harbaugh has been in the league 30 years. You don't think he's ever been in a...
What if Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys?
No, I wouldn't. I would say Mike McCarthy's won a Super Bowl. Mike McCarthy's been in the league for decades. Like, you can't think that John Harbaugh's never had a team play in cold weather.
No, Lamar's never played in weather close to as cold as it's going to be.
Few have probably played in that cold, but cold is cold.
It's weird.
Here's what
I don't think it's great for Baltimore. I'll just say that.
You know what?
This should have at the very least flipped the line back to pick 'em.
No. Because cold is cold, and Greg Jennings will tell us that. Like, you never get used to the cold. It's not like Josh Allen is used to the cold.
Then why is he turning off the water?
To make it colder.
Why?
So they can get used to the cold.
I thought you just said you never get used to it.
To the best degree you can. I mean, you try, but you still... I don't care what you do. If you walk outside and it's freezing, you're going to be cold.
We would love to be outside, but we just can't. You know, the fields are too hard and they're too frozen.
Lamar has said, they asked him, you wearing gloves? He's like, no, I'm not wearing gloves. I've tried it once and it didn't work. So I like that. If he were saying, you know what, I tried gloves before, it didn't work, but it's so cold, I need to wear some gloves. Then now you're changing everything.
He doesn't know what it's going to feel like, Brew. That's the point.
I like what he said. He said, look, and he said what I said. You can't go out into a football game worrying about how cold it is. It's part of the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's part of the job.
I totally agree.
The game, not the practice. It is. I'm serious.
Isn't part of the job?
It isn't hard. No, not practicing on
Wild
hard
said before
grass.
the show that they should be traveling to Buffalo today and have their final practice at a high school.
How many years did you coach in the NFL?
None, but you know what? I've never been a pilot either. But if I see the plane careening to the ocean, I'm allowed to raise my hand and say, this is a bad strategy.
This is going to make it better. So if they lose, it's going to be because they practiced inside
It won't
instead of
not
outside.
be because of that. The first question
way.
I'll ask, hey, do you think it was a good idea to have practice in a gymnasium?
I'm telling you. Part of when men were men, we didn't make excuses.
And they also
if they lose, they lose. If they lose in this weather, they would have lost when it was 90 degrees.
can't
That's
even
what
take
I'm
a shower
thinking.
after practice because Harbaugh turned off the water.
They can drive home and take a shower.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.